we've each been assigned 8 teams in round 1 for the next 4 hours, as much as one can. We're going to try to rip through this thing. Let's get going. And by the way, these are our superstars because they're only doing round 1. I'm here for the whole time being striker. So we'll bring in our next batch of guys after round 1. But we're starting at the top. We each got 8 teams. B-Mac, you are on the clock with the Tennessee Titans. And by the way, guys, we're doing first-round trades. So hold on to your seats. B-Mac, you're on the clock.
Yes, guys, there is no need to overthink this with the Tennessee Titans. They've sent the entire brass to go watch Cam Ward. Clearly, they love Cam Ward. There's a mutual love between both parties. So with the first pick of this 2025 NFL draft, I have the Tennessee Titans selecting their future quarterback of the franchise, Cam Ward.
Hey, Pete, I'll ask you this because I know how Rand and B-Mac feel about it. Put Cam in last year's draft class. Where are you ranking him with that group?
5 or 6. Put him in next year's draft class. I might rank him 5 and 6 in that one too. I don't look. You know how I feel about this quarterback class, and look, if I was the Tennessee Titans, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't take him. I'd play on with Will Levis and see what happens, and if he's not any good, then you move on next year. And I'd take Travis Hunter because I think he's the best player in the draft. That's what I would do.
B-Mac, find somebody that loves you as much as Pete loves Will Levis. That's all I ask you to do because that man, he cannot quit Will Levis. All right, Rand, I don't need you to comment on the Titans because you're taking Cam Ward.
No,
I'm taking
you do
Cam
not.
Ward. Here we go.
You do not need me to comment.
But you know what? I want to hear your thoughts on the Cleveland Browns. And we saw everybody ever employed by Cleveland now and before at the Colorado Pro Day. So what are you doing at number 2?
So at number 2, knowing that they need a quarterback, and that's the big question for them, right? You sign Joe Flacco, you trade for Kenny Pickett. So who's going to be the signal caller? You don't know. And with the second pick in the draft, you still won't know because I'm taking Travis Hunter. And I'm taking Travis Hunter, like Pete said, this guy's a special talent. I believe they start him at receiver and pair him with Jerry Jeudy, who had 90 catches last year. And then who had the second most catches behind Jerry Jeudy? You had Cedric Tillman with 29 that's returning. So that's a big disparity in terms of ball distribution. So whoever the quarterback is going to be is going to come into an embarrassment of riches and having Travis Hunter with Jerry Jeudy. Oh, and by the way, he can be your nickel in sub on defense when you have a Mark Emerson and a Greg Newsome both being free agents after the season. And Denzel Ward, I mean, he's an all-pro, Pro Bowl talent when he's healthy. But that's the key. When he's healthy, he's never played a full season in the NFL. So give me Travis Hunter at number 2 for the dog pound to go crazy over.
I'll just say this. Some of us on this show right now, we're going to trade up for a quarterback. And I think some of us got really nervous when Rand was giving that intro. So avoided that pothole. I'll just note this. We put up a poll before the show started. And Abdul Carter, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter are another player. And folks, 49%. And Travis ran over Abdul Carter, won over Abdul Carter, I should say. People prefer Travis Hunter 49% to Abdul Carter 41%. All right, Pete. Born in New York. You're a South Florida guy now. You're picking for the New York Giants. You're Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. What are you doing?
All right, I grew up a Giants fan. Loved the Giants. Big Phil Simms kid. I loved them. And they used to play quarterback back in the day of that team. They don't anymore. And nor am I going to take a quarterback in this spot because I don't love this quarterback class. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to what the Giants do well, and that's pick pass rushers. And I'm going to take Abdul Carter. I'm going to add him to the mix. When they won Super Bowls, they rushed the passer. And I think you can never have enough of those guys. I will find a way to make it all work with all those pass rushers. I will take Abdul Carter, and I will pass on the quarterback.
All right, there you go. And I don't necessarily disagree with that because I think they're in better shape. You agree with this, Pete, than other teams that need quarterbacks because they do have Russ and do have Jameis?
No, I think they have problems as well, but they're not winning with them. They're not winning with those two guys. They're not winning. Here's the only caveat in the whole situation. If Joe Shane wants to save his job, he could draft a quarterback in the spot and try to save his job. I don't think he will, but he could try it. Those two guys, he's gone. But he could draft Shadur Sanders or somebody in this draft at some point and get him into the action halfway through the season. If he plays well, then it might save his job. He's not saving his job with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston.
The Russell Wilson hatred I don't get. Hey, Rand, let me ask you this, because media say this a lot and fans do too. If you just draft a quarterback, you can prolong your job opportunities in the front office. You agree with that?
It depends on who you draft, right? and let's be honest, man. A lot of this, we can all feel how we feel about these quarterbacks and what have you. This is an opinion-based business in which we are, but a lot of it too is the scheme and the fit in which these quarterbacks are coming into and what they have around them. And so the problem that we have in our league is that we throw so many resources at this quarterback position, hoping to find that blue talent. Right. And God only made so many of those guys. And I think when you have those guys, you tend to lean on, player X will get us out of this situation. Sometimes it's okay with having a solid second tier quarterback, but you have to do your job and continue to build around that player, whether that's offense, defense, or special teams. And I think we try to hedge our bet on trying to find the next franchise quarterback with every swing at the position.
Yeah, and knowing what you just said there, Abdul Carter feels like that's one where you go to bed at night and you feel pretty good about the prospects of having a job in the morning. By the way, if you're watching us, hit the old like button, and you can hop into the chat, and Debo and Stryker will find your messages and pass them along to us, and we'll talk about them on the show if we get an opportunity. All right, next up, I'm the New England Patriots. I'm not going to overthink this either. Kelvin Banks is my offensive tackle one. I know that some mock drafts have him fallen into the 20s, and I would take him here, except got you there, Stryker. I need this young man to play right away. I don't care about his arms. He started in the SEC as a freshman. Will Campbell, 4th overall. Pete, am I overdrafting Will Campbell? And you want to move everyone to tackle? So do I have to kick him inside to start his career?
No, I want to move everybody to guard. You're right, but I do think he's a guard. But and look, I get it for the Patriots. They have to take a tackle. They have to. I mean, look at their offensive line. You can try him a tackle. If he doesn't work out a tackle, you move him inside. You move him inside the guard. But I think this pick makes sense for them. I also think there's a couple other things that play for the Patriots. I think you got to look at Walker. I think he's in play. Yeah, and I also think Jeanty could be in play there. And that sounds crazy, but what's the easiest thing to do for a young quarterback? Get a running back to make it easier on him.
I got Ramondre Stevenson. He can do numbers.
Oh, stop. Ramondre Stevenson is just a guy. You know that.
Hey, listen, I'm just proud that Ryan took a guy with perceived short arms. We've done a few of these mock drafts, and arm length has been the number one topic. So that's showing growth, Ryan. I'm proud of you, man.
Well, like Pete doesn't like Bryce Young. I don't like guys with short arms. I got short arms. Bryce Young's height. We got to turn the corner and turn the page on this, Pete. We got to hold these guys up and give them an opportunity.
No, Will Campbell's a tackle, Pete. He ain't a guard. Keep him out on the perimeter. No.
Well, we'll see. We'll find out.
We'll find out together. Yeah, I don't know about the Ashton Jeanty. I love Ashton Jeanty, but they're not one player away. Just 30 seconds on that, Pete, and we'll move on. But if you're not one player away, why would you take Jeanty when this running back class is so deep?
Well, and look, you know how I feel about running backs. I normally would say no, but I think he's one of the best players in this draft. And so sometimes you get the best player in the draft, you take him. He makes it easier on the quarterback. I mean, he's special. He's a special runner. And so, for me to say that, how I think about the running back position and drafting it. So I would consider it if I were the Patriots.
Hey, Pete, it might be on site when I see you, man, doing the way you trashing my running backs. So.
All right, next up, Bryant McFadden. You are the Jacksonville Jaguars. I used your Christian name when I introduced you there. What are you doing for Jacksonville?
When Jacksonville had some real successful times, they were nicknamed Saxonville on the defensive side. So I have the Jacksonville Jaguars with their first round selection taking Mason Graham, the interior defensive lineman from Michigan. You pair him up with Eric Armstead. You look at Josh Hines-Allen, Travon Walker. You have potentially a dominant defensive front that can harass guys like C.J. Stroud, who's in your division, the Cam Wars, who's now the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, and Daniel Jones, who will probably be the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. You can make their life extremely miserable adding a guy like Mason Graham.
This has been a popular selection throughout the process for sure, B-Mac. By the way, in the chat, Brandon Hallam, shout out for the Draft Day movie, Rand. Someone will call the rookie Jaguars GM, not Gladstone, but the guy in the movie who Kevin Costner didn't know his name, offer 3 years of seconds for his first.
Hey, Brandon, we're trying to get past Ryan in this movie Draft Day. Netflix has struck again with his algorithm, man. Come on, let's leave that alone.
Kevin Costner strikes again.
You look, Mason Graham's a good player, B-Mac, but he ain't very big. And everybody has that as a slam dunk for Jacksonville. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I think Jeanty's in play there in a big way.
He's going to get drafted 3 times in the first round. Hey, Pete,
Well,
answer this question from. Go ahead, B-Mac.
Yeah, I heard about Ashton Jeanty as well, potentially being in play for Jacksonville. But in terms of the lack of size for Mason Graham, Braden Fisk, he's an overly big interior guy as well. But the thing that he excels
what round
at,
did he go in? What round did he go in?
What round should he have gone in?
Second, but if you did a redraft right now, he would be a top 15, top 12 pick.
He wouldn't be
if you
top
did a
5,
redraft.
though. He wouldn't be top 5.
Here's what I'll say. Let me try to interject in the argument a little bit. I do think, and I like Mason Graham, and I think he's a talented dude. But I do think this love affair with him is because so many people felt like they missed on Braden Fisk, right? So I think it's probably pushing him up a little bit higher than where he would typically go in a traditional draft. And I'm going to agree with Pete because I know exactly where Pete's coming from, with this, just in terms of, I think there are going to be other people in play for them at 5 because this has just been too concrete and too consistent and too solid. And you got to think we're a first-time GM and a first-time head coach who's an offensive-minded coach. They're going to look to make sure that his expertise is top-notch and ready to go. So I'm starting to believe that there are going to be other players, particularly on offense, and play for them at 5.
We're living in a world where former GM agrees with Pete Prisco twice already in the first 15 minutes, P-Mac.
Smart man. He's a smart man.
Hey, Pete, I'm going to ask you this as the mayor of Jacksonville. David Osetic asked in the chat, what pick of the Jags that is actually realistic might be the worst case scenario? And I'm assuming for the franchise in terms of getting the best player, so on and so forth.
One of the tight ends to me, I think. I don't think that would be a good pick for them.
Okay.
Yeah, look, Liam Cohen didn't use the tight end until his receivers got hurt last year in Tampa. Then he used them. I don't think you draft a tight end in that spot.
Okay. Even though one of those guys or both of them, I mean, they could be top 15 picks. Top 10
they could
picks.
be good players. I just don't think you draft them there.
All right, Rand, you had to hat on for 5 minutes here. You are the Las Vegas Raiders. You are Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Mark Davis, all wrapped into one. What are you doing here at number 6?
So at pick number 6, you come into it and, based off of what I just said about the Jacksonville Jaguars and the one person you've seen mocked there the most, you've seen Ashton Jeanty at running back mocked here the most at pick number 6. Well, I'm going to try to make you proud, Ryan. I'm going the other way. And I'm going to take wide receiver Tet McMillan at pick number 6, wide receiver out of Arizona. You mentioned Chip Kelly. What do we know Chip Kelly for running? A spread offense, an 11 personnel offense. Right now, Jacoby Myers is your perceived number 1 wide receiver coming off of his first 1,000-yard season. After that, you have one guy that averaged less than 12 yards a catch. You had another guy that averaged right at 9 yards a catch. You need to have weapons for Geno, and you added Raheem Mostert as your running back with Sincere McCormick and also Zamir White. If you go back to when Chip Kelly was running the offense in Philly, they had guys spread open. They were throwing the wide open spaces. They stretched the field horizontally, and then they used those spaces just to run the back. And I don't think that they're going to go with a heavy load in terms of running the ball. So I'm taking Tet McMillan here to give Geno Smith another weapon at wide receiver.
Here, let me get Raider J in here who left this comment in the chat. To quote Pete, Jeanty makes life easier on the quarterback. T-Mac is not an elite player the way Jeanty is. Would you would rather try to jump back in and get Jaden Higgins, the Iowa State wide receiver? Look, our buddy Lee J. Doozle, who's coming on later, is a huge Jaden Higgins fan. I don't think he's in the same conversation as tetairoa McMillan. Pete, have you seen Jaden Higgins?
Yeah, I like Jaden Higgins. I a lot. I don't love Tet McMillan. I'm not totally on board.
In his defense, you watched the wrong tape for the first 30 minutes.
No, but I did. But I've gone back and watched it all. I watched all his bad plays, and when I watched his bad plays, I nearly threw up on my shoes. But he doesn't. I don't like receivers that don't really get vertical. I mean, he's not a threat. I always go back to the 2 Mike Williams. Both of them ran 4.55 or whatever.
Disrespectful.
4.58. And neither one of them worked out.
Okay, would you rather have Ashton Jeanty and Jaden Higgins or tetairoa McMillan and I don't think O'Marion Hampton will be there, but whoever, Trevion Henderson, for example?
I mean, you can look at it that way. I don't love McMillan, and I do think the backs are good.
I think what would really justify this pick for the Raiders with McMillan is who they get at running back in round 2.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
Let me see who's going to be picking for the Raiders in round 2, because you guys are going to be eating ice cream and leave me here hanging. Mike Renner's Mike Renner will be on the clock.
See, but Rand didn't have to think that out. He just made the pick now and he's out of there.
And I'm gone.
His assistant GM will make the pick.
Mike Renner's going to be the assistant GM.
The JV GM that's who his second round pick is.
All right, Pete, you are staying in New York, and you are the New York Football Jets. You are going to be Rick Spielman for this segment. What are you doing?
Oh, no, I'm not going to be Rick Spielman. I'm not a meathead like that guy. This is a tough pick to me because I don't love, and I know a lot of people do, but I know they need a right tackle. So I'm gonna pick Kelvin Banks and play him at right tackle.
Okay.
Oh.
Hey, Rand, what do you think about that? Because I think you and Pete are on the same page about Membou as well. Is this too rich for Banks here?
No, I don't think it's too rich for him.
Okay.
And I actually like the pick here. And I don't think it's too rich. Like I said, I like Membou, but I just think in the top 10 for a guy who's still developmental, who still has a ways to go from a technique and fundamental standpoint, I think that was a little too rich. When you're picking in the top 10, you want to get about as sure thing as you can find. And Kelvin Banks, I think, is a solid pick for him here. I'm
glad B-Mac and I are on one side of the screen and you two guys are on the other side disrespecting Armand Membou from way over there. The kid's 20 years old. And Lige just texted me, Pete. He said, quit picking for the Jets. He doesn't want you representing his team.
Well, Rand's right about Membou, though. He's got a wonderful athletic ability, but there's a lot of things not to like about him. His technique isn't great. He's a waist bender. He's on the ground a lot. He doesn't finish all the time. Ryan loves every. You figured this out already, Rand. That Ryan loves every player in the draft. So we got to bring some balance to it.
That's
See, and to say I'm disrespecting the guy that's still going first round. Come on, man.
Right.
Shut up, Pete. By the way, we have another poll up right now. If you want to hit it up on YouTube at NFL CBS, where will Shedeur Sanders be selected? And before pick 10, 53%, because the Saints are at 9 there. After pick 10, 47%. But first up, we got to get to pick 8. And B-Mac, this is me limping to the podium because I pulled my hamstring to turn in Jalen Walker's name. We're going to upgrade what Frankie Luvu was there by about a factor of 20, and Frankie Luvu was a great player. Tell me, what's it like as a cornerback playing behind someone like Jalen Walker who's creating havoc at the second level?
Make it hot so we can squat. Make it hot so we can squat on these routes. When you got that consistent pass rush coming down, for us guys in the secondary, we knew that ball had to come out extremely fast. So, that's what we used to say in Pittsburgh, man. Hey, guys, make it hot so we can sit on and squat on some of these routes. And I like this pick as well. I love his athleticism. And, when you're in a passing league, you got to go get guys that look like what they hunt. And he's one of those players that look like what he hunts.
Hey, Rand, let me ask you this. Zach Dean leaves a comment, says Walker's not better than Luvu. And Luvu was special. And I think he obviously exceeded everyone's expectations because I believe he was undrafted. Do you think, number one, do you agree with that? Number two, if so, does Jalen have an opportunity to be better than Luvu?
No, I think he does because I think what everyone sees what Luvu is now, right? It took Luvu a while to get to this point.
No question.
And it took him multiple teams to get to this point until he found the right scheme that fit his skill set. And now I'll say that's what you have to be as a trailblazer. I'm not calling him a trailblazer, but he had to lay that path so then guys like Jalen can come in and then there's already a role built in these defensive schemes for those type of skill sets.
Hey, Pete, Zach Dean also left a comment, Panthers fan, I'm assuming. He liked mykel Williams there. I like mykel Williams. I think Jalen Walker's more of an impact player on day one just based on what we saw on the tape.
I would agree with that. There's some injury concerns there. I mean, he was hurt. It didn't work out at his pro day. I think he's having another workout. I think, aren't those two guys having a workout tomorrow or something?
Yep.
Both of them. So there is concern there. I think Walker could be like one of those in there. He'll play outside in their defense, but you can move him around. He can do a lot of different things. I think mykel Williams is strictly a defensive end.
All right, B-Mac, you're the fighting Derek Carr's at number 9. You're the New Orleans Saints. What are you going to do?
Well, guys, we have our first trade in our mock draft. brace yourself. We have a trade. We have the New Orleans Saints making a deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. New Orleans will move back to 2021. The Pittsburgh Steelers will move up from 21 to 9, and they have their selection ready to be entered. With that pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers will select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado. Put your watches up.
What'd you give up?
So just for the purposes of our show here, we're not going to mess up the draft picks in this order because we have guys coming on later who have been doing a little bit of planning. So it can be whatever you want it to be. We did all 2026 and beyond picks just so we could get the draft machine to work properly. But I think, what did we come up with, B-Mac? A first-round pick next year and a third-round pick next year.
I think the draft simulator had a first-rounder, of course, swapping picks this year. Pittsburgh gives New Orleans their first-round pick next year, along with a third-round pick as well.
You're fired.
Oh, stop it. What's wrong with that?
You're fired. What are you're going to trade up to go? You're going to give up all that to go get that guy?
They traded from 20 to 10 to get Devin Bush in 2019, a linebacker.
Well, that was a bad move too. I mean, you can't keep making bad moves.
Pete. Yeah. One thing you have to understand something with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You cannot continue to put a Band-Aid on an injury that needs surgery. You got to go find a future quarterback at some point in time.
There's a ton of guys in the draft next year.
You can't.
Next year, Pittsburgh. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers who have playoff aspirations and championship aspirations every year. It's not about next year, and you don't know when you might be picking next year. Pete,
they win 9 games every year and make the playoffs and lose. It's the same story every year.
Do not put off tomorrow what you can do today. No, if they like the guy, if the Saints are willing to do business, I'm okay with it because we don't know exactly what will happen next year, and I can't worry about next year. It's about the here and now.
Hey, let me ask you this, B-Mac. And if you're a Saints fan, maybe you're angry because the Saints didn't take Shedeur there. But your understanding, just listen to the little birdies, that maybe the Saints don't love Shedeur as much as the Steelers.
No question. Clearly, my ears are not as close to the streets as your ears and Rand ears. But I'm hearing the Saints are not overly in love with Shedeur Sanders as we see today. And Rand, you had some information for us. Could you share with the viewers about who the Saints sent out to Shedeur's pro day compared to another quarterback who we won't name at this time? Because you said they only sent their assistant quarterback coach or quarterback coach to the pro day.
Was it me or Ryan?
Oh, that's you, Ryan.
That's for you, Rand.
Oh, okay. So in attendance at Colorado's pro day, the Saints sent their receiver coach and their quarterback coach. And at Miami's pro day, as well as Ole Miss's pro day, the head coach, the GM, the OC, quarterback coach were all in attendance at those pro days, which you can't ignore that. Now, again, I'll say in New Orleans' defense, I'm sure they were in draft meetings at that time, but to bring it back around, so were the Giants. They were in draft meetings and they still jumped on a plane and made it for the pro day.
All right, let's get going here. Lee J. Dizzle is excited to get on, and Pete's bogging things down because he doesn't like the pick in Pittsburgh. We'll circle back on that, Pete, because it's going to happen in real life too, probably. All right, number 10, Ryan, your Chicago Bears. You got your hat on. What are we doing?
So started off really wanting to take a tackle here, particularly a left tackle, and Kelvin Banks to replace Braxton Jones and to bring this fixer-upper project of the O-line all the way around full circle. But Kelvin Banks is no longer here, and a top 10 caliber talent for the left tackle position is no longer here. So I'm going to shift and go with the second pick here and go with Ashton Jeanty, running back, Boise State, here at pick number 10, to pair with, at least through this year, a DeAndre Swift to give new head coach Ben Johnson that 1-2 punch that he likes to have at the running back position, where he had Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And so adding a guy like Jeanty to this that can take some of that load off of Caleb Williams and be a viable piece of helping them create a play action game, which was big in the Detroit offense, will help them here. And if I can throw in this one last bit, I mean, DeAndre Swift ran for 958 yards, I want to say, but he also only averaged 3.8 yards a carry. So you do need an upgrade here at this position.
Pete, you're 11, San Francisco 49ers. You okay with Jeanty, Chicago?
Oh, I think Ben Johnson would do cartwheels to get Jeanty in that spot. I don't think there's any question about that. In fact, there was some talk that maybe he would consider going up to go get him. I don't think he will, but he's perfect for what he wants to do. I think that would be a great pick for them. 49ers need a lot defensive line help, particularly defensive line help. Believe me, and I know there's a lot of teams in this league that would love to be able to do that. I can't do it in this spot, but if it was a clean slate from a character standpoint, I'd take James Pierce here, but I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Walter Nolen. I think the 49ers need to get better on the inside of that defensive line. They need to get somebody who can dominate inside again. They've had all kinds of problems. They have a lot of injuries in there. They've got rid of a lot of guys, so I'll take Walter Nolen in that spot.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Pick 11, and that makes me extremely happy as the Dallas Cowboys at pick 12 here.
But I'll have to tell Walter Nolen, I want you to practice a little harder, Walter. I want you practicing a little harder.
Well, I can promise you one thing. With Chris Kacerek as his defensive line coach, him practicing hard will not be a problem.
Yeah, this better than anyone, Rand. The defensive line, even when they rotate through those guys, those guys are bringing it. All right, I'm the Dallas Cowboys. Running back's gone, wide receiver's gone, but you know who's there, B-Mac?
Who you got?
4-3-9, Jahdae Barron.
You are a consistent human, Ryan.
Right? Is it? Hey, Pete, since you're a negative Nancy on the show, any downside to taking Barron here? Can
he play outside consistently? That's my only concern on him. I think he can do a lot of things. I think he's one of those guys. You could play him at safety, you could play him in the nickel, you could play him outside. But has he got one skill? You know, is he Brian Branch? Is faster Brian Branch? Is that what he is? Which is a good football player, don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's a pure outside corner. At least I don't see it.
Where would you play him, Rand?
I think he can play. I think he can play outside, but I think his versatility is his key. Is the key to him and, which defensive scheme. Now, I was going to pose this question to B-Mac, being our DB expert here. And you look at pick number 7, and you have Aaron Glenn as the new head coach there who just had Brian Branch. Do you think 7 is too rich for a Jahdae Barron type of player in that type of role, knowing what that role means to the defense?
Yeah, I think so. I think when you look at the Jets, they need to improve their offensive line more so than anything. So that would be more ideal for Jahdae. I think he's a double-digit pick guy, meaning he would be outside the top 10. And for the Dallas Cowboys, you look at Trevon Diggs, who's still under contract. He has some injuries. You look at Deron Bland. Either one of those guys are not known to be nickel guys. So if you're making this pick with Jahdae, the versatility probably will surface with him being more so of an inside corner than an outside corner when you have Deron Bland, when you have Trevon Diggs. So the more you can do is always a plus. But to Pete's point, when you draft a guy this high, usually they're more known to be an outside guy than an inside guy. But looking at the personnel, I can see Jahdae doing a little bit of both, but more so doing inside work because of Deron Bland and Trevon Diggs.
And I would throw in there, I mean, we have to go back and look at the contract status of the other two. They gave Diggs the big extension, but when can they get out of it? Dallas is always up against the cap. And so this could be a year ahead of a need pick, so to speak, in allowing him to get a guy, get him in the system, see how he fits, and then be able to move on from one of those other two in those big contracts.
Yeah, someone pointed out in the comments, Rand, that Jahdae did have 29-inch arms, which can be a concern if that's your thing. Rand's shaking his head.
Listen, 2 picks by you with guys with short arms, man. I might play the lottery tonight.
Tonight's the night to do it. All right, B-Mac, you're lucky 13 for the South Florida Miami Dolphins. What are you doing?
Miami, they need a lot. You talk about a team, a few years ago, it felt like they had the window open for a championship-like run, and now we're starting to see turnovers on either side of the football field with their roster. Losing Teron Armstead to early retirement. They let go Robert Hunt a year ago. The offensive line is the way to go for me, and I have the Miami Dolphins selected Armand Membou, talented tackle from Missouri. You guys talked about being a bit raw, but there is a high upside with this kid, especially in terms of the need for the Miami Dolphins. And I see him fitting in rather nicely with what they love to do on the offensive end.
I actually love that pick. But
I do too. Where do you play him at, though? Because you have a right tackle, but he's only on 1 year left on his contract. So what do you do?
And they also need a left tackle, by the way.
They got Patrick. They got Patrick Paul is going to be there.
Oh, yeah, Patrick, yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with him being on the right side. Me personally, Pete.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe you move Jackson, let him play some guard. So yeah, I get it. I think that's a good pick.
We had a comment earlier from Anthony, Dolphins fan. It looked like he wanted defense to be Mac, and you did those guys wrong. Anthony Manzano, Will Johnson, Malachi Starks, our guy Nicky Manwari. You felt better about the offensive line?
No, yeah, the offensive line is horrendous. And one thing we know about Miami and Mike McDonald's system, if the offensive line are not doing what they need to do, nothing works on the offensive side of the football in terms of how they love to run the football. So getting back to the basics with their offense, I think, is more of a priority offensive line-wise, and you can address the defensive situation in the second or third round of the draft.
Yeah, and the other thing is Membou doesn't have to be on time because when you get fined, you still don't have to be on time in Miami.
Somebody cut Pete's mic. All right.
Mr. Pete taking shots. Being tardy. He just got drafted. He ain't put on his hat yet.
This next pick is fitting. B-Mac at number 14. Rand Carthon picking for his Indianapolis Colts, who he reminded me put a whooping on B-Mac's Pittsburgh Steelers in that Monday night game back in 2005.
Yes, they did.
When Ike was flapping his gums and Marvin Harrison introduced him to the end zone in that first play of the game.
Yeah.
Listen, my grandfather always said it's the quiet ones you got to worry about. and they woke Marvin up. I've never seen him go off like that, wanting the ball in that first play. And there were some choice words said down there. And I'm sure B-Mac was in earshot and heard it all. So we'll leave that for another time. There might be another live session we could have to discuss those moments.
No question.
But at the 14th pick with the Indianapolis Colts, and B-Mac hit on it. He was talking about Miami and needed to shore up that offensive line. And when the offensive line isn't clicking, nothing is working. And so I'm going to do the same thing for the Indianapolis Colts. And I'm going to take Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama. Right now you have, as their starting right guard, you have Dalton Tucker, who was a 2024 undrafted guy that started 7 games for him. And if we've known what Chris Ballard is like to do, he's like to build up front on both sides of the ball. And this solidifies pretty much the offensive line for them right now, and whomever the quarterback is going to be, whether it's going to be Anthony Richardson or if it's going to be Daniel Jones. I consider the tight end here, to give them another weapon. But if you look at their offense, you have Jonathan Taylor, who is an all-pro caliber quarterback, and then you have 3 really good wide receivers. There's just not enough balls to go around for everybody if you take a tight end this high. So I chose to fix the O-line and give those young quarterbacks some time to make decisions back there.
Pete, you are pick 15. You're the Atlanta Falcons. Do you subscribe to the opinion that Tyler Booker makes more sense than, say, Tyler Warren?
I would probably take Tyler Warren there.
Okay.
They haven't had a guy with over 800 yards at tight end since Dallas Clark. Yeah, they need. But I love Booker, by the way. I think Rand's spot on him. You know how I feel about Booker. I think he's a mauler. He's a nasty, nasty player. It's just, his movement skills aren't great, but I like that pick. I think that's what the Colts are. You know what they want to do. I mean, that makes sense.
Hey, B-Mac, you see our guy George Foster, who's a former first round pick on the O-line. He jumped in. I always want to give love to the big fella. So
Big George.
Yeah.
Hey, hit the like button if you're watching, or if you're rewatching it later, so other people can be exposed to the wonders that are Pete Prisco. All right, Pete, you're the Atlanta Falcons. What are you doing at 15?
I need a pass rusher here, and I look at this board and I say, do I want Mike Green? Probably not. Do I want Shamar Stewart? Probably not. So I'm going to go to the kid at Georgia, and I'm going to take the local kid. I'm going to take McKell Williams. I'm going to put him into this spot and take him as my pass rusher. I think, look, there are guys in this draft, and we know that have probably better edge rush ability, quick twitch off the edge than him. But there are questions about some of them. So I'm going to say it's safe and take mykel Williams and hope he plays like he did a year ago, because he didn't play 2 years ago, because he didn't play that well last year.
He was banged up last year, too.
What's that? Yeah, he was banged up, but he didn't play as well.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I'm up. I'm the Arizona Cardinals, and my theme for this thing is not overthinking it. A lot of the offensive linemen are gone, so that doesn't throw a monkey wrench in my plan, so it makes my pick a little easier. Pete, you'll be shocked to learn that I love this young man. I'm going with my guy at Texas, Matthew Golden. I think you give some help to Marvin Harrison Jr., make life easier for him. They just gave Trey McBride all that money, and well earned, in fact. So he reminds me a little bit of Jordan Addison, and you get him a legit number 1, and he can do all the other stuff that Jordan Addison did. And Jordan Addison was a proper 1A when JJ got hurt in Minnesota. So
Well, maybe he will be the one.
Stop it.
I mean, the other guy won the one last year.
Oh,
He had over 800 yards.
I mean, if you rank
it wasn't good enough to beat.
If you
Wasn't
rank
good
the
enough
wide
to beat.
receivers that came out in the draft last year, where did he rank?
All right, next up. Pick 17. Oh, Pete, give him time. Give him time, Pete. Pick 17. BMAC, you got to drive up north to Ohio and represent the Cincinnati Bengals, too. What are you doing?
This is great. I love this. I love this.
Yeah, unfortunately, I got to make this pick for Cincinnati. Clearly, the elephant in the room has been defense, trying to improve. We don't know the status of Trey Hendrickson. Will he be a part of this team week 1? We don't know. But one thing we do know, even with or without Trey Hendrickson, they got to add pass rushers. I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Mike Green. I think he's the second best pure pass rusher in this draft behind Abdul Carter. And he showed some strength and power down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. So I think he would be a nice piece to the puzzle of what they're trying to build there in Cincinnati on the defensive end.
Here, I'll ask you quickly, BMAC. Why not? And you're right. I understand exactly why he took Mike Green. He is special. Why not our guy, Nicky Manwari, the safety out of South Carolina?
Rush the passer.
Okay.
You know, when you're playing against Lamar Jackson twice a year, you got to find ways to put pressure on those type of guys, not to mention other guys in the AFC, you know, that you would have to get through to go chase a sticky Lombardi, Pat Mahomes, you know, Josh Allen. If you don't find a way to put pressure on those guys, good luck in hoping your offense can score 50 a game.
Yeah, no, fair point. All right, Rand, you are the Seattle Seahawks. You were pick 18.
So, you know, you made a great pick for Arizona and taking Matthew Golden, because this would have been my pick for Seattle here, especially with Clint Kubiak coming in and this new offensive system. And you kind of have two guys that are kind of similar in Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp. So he would have been a great fit as the X receiver there. So we'll shift and we'll go on the other side of the ball for Seattle. And it might be a little too high, but there's a reason you take a guy like this. And I'm going Jihaad Campbell, linebacker, Alabama. Here for Seattle. And if you look at a Mike McDonald system, a defensive system, those two inside linebackers are key for him. And you look at what they had in Baltimore when they had those two beasts in the middle. And so they traded for Ernest Jones last year, re-signed him. He's clearly locked in as their leader and the leading tackler. And now you add a young, athletic Jihaad Campbell to pair next to him to be flying sideline to sideline. I think this is what will really help get Mike McDonald's defense going in Seattle.
Yeah, some Cardinals fans in the comments wanted inside front seven help. I understand that. Will Johnson was a name here for the Seahawks at 18. Pete, you're picking for Tampa Bay. Both tight ends, Will Johnson, those guys are still available. What are you doing?
By the way, I probably in this spot I would have taken Jihaad Campbell because if you look at the Bucs linebacker situation, Levante David's probably getting up in the years one of the last year. Servassier Dennis got hurt last year, so they need linebacker. I probably would have taken him in that spot. So Rand, you got me. Who am I taking here? I love this cornerback, and I'm taking Hairston. I think Hairston is the best corner in this draft class. He is a nasty little violent kid who will attack the football. I love him. I take Max Hairston for the Bucs.
B-Mac, you like that?
You know how I feel about Maxwell. You know he was high on my. You know what, Ryan? Pete might have stole some of the things I said about Max when he was watching me and you.
He did.
I've never heard a word you've said about Maxwell Hairston.
When I highlighted Maxwell, but Pete, you're dead on. And the thing about Maxwell, he didn't put forth his best effort because he was injured. He was nursing that shoulder injury this season. But when you watch him against Georgia this year, outstanding in coverage. When you watch them against Isaiah Bond and Golden from Texas, on the road, they were taking deep shots left and right, post concepts, and he was right where he needed to be. He plays a little bit with the mentality of Devon Witherspoon. He doesn't deliver that type of power and blow, but that's the mentality that he plays with. I love this pick, and Tampa really loves him as well, and they need cornerback help in terms of depth and skill set, so I love that pick too.
So I'm the Denver Broncos, and they signed Evan Ingram, and that's sort of refocused our attention on someone like Omari Hampton, the running back here. But I have both tight ends still on the board. By the way, Nathan Elliott says in the chat, Pete, give me that. Put that back up there real quick, Debo. back away from Jihaad Campbell. Bucks want to win now, and he won't be playing this year until it's too late. I don't think that's true.
I don't believe that either. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to play. The kid's incredible. He just turned 21. He's an insane athlete. Yes, David B says smash that like button. Do that too. I'm the Denver Broncos. Evan Ingram has gotten better each and every year, but if I have the opportunity to get one of these tight ends, and the tight end room isn't that deep behind him, you have Adam Troutman, who's there. You have Lucas Kroll from Pitt, who's there. I'm taking Colston Loveland because Colston Loveland is basically a big slot, insanely athletic, runs through arm tackles, and I don't know that Evan Ingram is going to be what he was for a blip on the radar in Jacksonville after, I think.
And Evan Ingram, by the way, his yards per catch went down way down last year. So that's always a red flag when you start looking at those guys.
Yep, single digits.
Yeah. What was it, 6.5 or something?
Who was throwing the ball in Jacksonville?
It matters, though. It's not the same guy. You get old. B-Mac, we're all old. I get old. You get old. We're all old.
No. Don't put that.
No, don't speak for yourself. I age like fine wine. Okay, I'm a bottle of Screaming Eagle.
Yeah.
All right, B-Mac. Steelers have Shadur Sanders, and this is a spot that New Orleans Saints find themselves. You certainly aren't going to do anything crazy now, are you?
I think I'm going to do exactly what New Orleans would do in this pick. Of course, for everyone who just chiming in and watching us, we had a trade earlier. New Orleans made the move. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they moved from inside the top 10 to the 21st pick. And with this pick, I have the New Orleans Saints selecting Jackson Dart as their quarterback of the future. When you look at what's going on with Carr, we don't know what his status is in terms of either being healthy or just wanting to be out of this organization sooner than later. So they clearly need to cut ties with that relationship and get ready for the future. I think they really, really high on Jackson Dart. I believe the New Orleans Saints potentially could be higher on Jackson Dart than they are on Shadur Sanders, which led to them moving out of the top 10 to get to this particular spot to get their quarterback of the future.
Pete, grade that pick.
I don't love Jackson Dart, but I get it. If you don't have a quarterback, you got to try to fix it. But I would love to know the answer to this question. Where the hell does Derek Carr think he's going to play?
He's hurt.
He wants out of New Orleans. If he wants to get out of New Orleans, where's he going? Where's he playing? Is there a long line of teams that want Derek Carr?
No,
I don't think so.
And to your point, to your question, Pete, why would he want to get out of New Orleans? Right. It doesn't make any sense for me.
I mean, just sit there and cash your checks. You're rolling in dough. They
Rick H.
You.
By the way, Rick H. Town in the chat says this feels like a Kenny Pickett selection. And look, Jackson Dart's a good kid. I don't know if we want to put Kenny Pickett on him, but I think he's more a second-round pick than a first-round pick. You agree with that, Pete? Okay, next up, pick 22. Rand, you are the LA Chargers.
LA Chargers, I feel like they need help up front on the defensive side of the ball. And if you know Jim Harbaugh's system, everywhere he's been, they got this O-line solidified, right? They addressed that early. They got that solidified. Now let's go on the other side of the ball. You only have 5 defensive linemen on your current roster. 3 of those guys will be UFAs following the season, and one of the other guys is also your starting fullback. So here I'm taking one of Jim Harbaugh's former players, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, Michigan. Right here. I think this will be a really good pick for them to have a big man that's athletic, is more athletic than you think, but he's also powerful and can hold gaps. And I think he'll really help to start to solidify that front for the Chargers. So I'm taking Kenneth Grant right here.
Love it. Even with a tight end on the board, Kenneth Grant makes a ton of sense. Pete, you're Green Bay at 23. I keep hearing they need wide receiver help, even though every wide receiver on that team is 25 and good. So what are we doing?
Well, you also got guys coming off injuries. Christian Watson coming off an injury. You have Romeo Doubs coming off concussions, 2. Remember, at the end of last year, he had 2 of them. So you're concerned about the wide receiver position. Look, you know how.
Here, let me interrupt you real quick though. Someone in the chat, Rick says Packers are going to draft Will Johnson, Luther Burden, or Donovan Ezraku. Do you agree with any of those names?
In fact, I'm leaning toward one of them. I'm going to take Will Johnson in the spot because I think Alexander's on his way out the door maybe before the draft or after the draft.
Yep.
They need to get a corner. I think Johnson would make sense here. I'm worried about the 40 time. Why do you keep waving that off? He won't run.
He played fast in 2023 when he was healthy.
That he ran 4.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you.
Run 4.7.
I'm right there with you.
Why won't you run?
And also too, Pete, the thing about Will Johnson, he finished the season injury with an injury, and he had a toe ailment, right? Wasn't it a toe?
Turf toe.
He's a very instinctive player. He's got great ball skills. I love what he can do, but I'm worried about the 40 time. Having said that, I would take him in this spot.
All right. Next up, pick 23, the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm not gonna overthink. I'm not gonna let you get in my head, Pete. I'm taking Nicky Manwari, the safety out of South Carolina. I was taking Malachi Starks here. I like Manwari a little bit better in B-Flow's system. Just come downhill, smacking people in the mouth. B-Mac agrees.
I love it. Now, the issue that I have with this fit for Minnesota, Nick and Hairston are kind of the same like players. They love to play around the line of scrimmage. Remember with Cam Bynum and Hairston, they can coexist because Cam was always commanding the post. That allowed Hairston, the hitman, just to kind of be around the ball. So let's see how this could work out with these two players. But clearly, it's safe to say Hairston Smith could be his final year in Minnesota. So
it is his final year.
Yeah, could step right into his shoes, into that system.
Yeah, but here's the other part of that equation, though, which is why Starks makes more sense. Metellus is the third safety. They play him a bunch, and he plays near the line of scrimmage too. He's like an extra.
You can play Nick deep, though. You can play Nick in the deep half.
I think he's more of a up near the line of scrimmage safety. I'm with B-Mac on that.
All right. Well, that's fine. I don't care. Next up, pick 25. The Houston Texans are on the clock, B-Mac.
Houston. I got the whole entire board is open right here. Honestly, guys, Houston need wide receiver, need O-line help. They could get prepared for life after Joe Mixon. There's a lot I'm going to go with, but I'll go with give me Josh Simmons, offensive lineman from Ohio State.
Took Pete's guy.
That's my guy, man.
Yeah.
He's the best offensive lineman in this class. End of story.
Yeah,
I know there's an injury and issues and everything else, but that kid is a freak.
Hey, Rand, let me ask you this. It's not an ACL. I think it's a patellar injury. What are the differences, concerns, severity when you talk about that for an offensive lineman?
I think you start to, obviously varying parts of the actual structure of the knee. But I think the big thing is what does the cartilage damage look like? Will that leave him bone on bone? Because if he leaves him bone on bone, then it's only so long before those lateral compartments start to break down, and then we're talking about a big man that plays a position where you got close to 800, 900 pounds sometimes leaning on you at a given time, and so you really want to go in and dive deep and really see how long the knee can hold up and whether there's still some cartilage left in there. If there's still some cartilage left and you're not worried about it, it should be fine. Especially in this day and age with the way surgeries are. I mean, shoot, it was a time where an Achilles was a kiss of death or an ACL was a kiss of death, and now these guys are coming back at even faster rates. So it all really depends on the overall structure of the knee.
Okay, love to hear it. Next up, your former team, the St. Louis/LA Rams, you're picking for them at 26, Rand.
Yeah, so this was a pick where, you guys forced me to jump off of my original pick because this would have been a really good landing spot for Jihaad Campbell as well, considering what they have here at the linebacker position. But then you have to switch and you have to adjust, and there are corners coming off the board, at all rates here. So I chose to go with Trey Amos, corner out of Ole Miss here for them because they really do need help at the corner position. They have a patchwork group with no solidified starter, and whom better to give a young corner that has a ton of talent than to give him to Aubrey Pleasant and let him do his thing and develop another young corner.
Pete, Baltimore Ravens at 27.
I need a pass rusher. What do they do? Because I have three pass rushers with expiring contracts at the end of the season. They need to get a young pass rusher. I'll take the kid from BC. I think he fits perfectly with what they want to do. They like the speed guys. They want to get those explosive guys off the edge. He's got that twitchiness about him. I'll take him for the Baltimore Ravens.
Donovan Ezaraku out of BC. And Randy and I have talked about him on the podcast. Early in the season, I thought he wasn't very good against the run, and then he got better.
Got better against the run. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a Ravens type pick, too. That's a Ravens type pick.
It absolutely is. All right, next up, Detroit Lions. It's Gray Zabel. Done. I don't need to overthink it. I'm going to say that a lot. He's going to come inside, play inside. He looks the part. He's nasty. Go ahead.
And it makes sense because he can play right guard now with Zeitler gone, and then when Ragnow retires, he can go play center.
Yeah,
so that works.
He's supposed to be a great locker room guy. Yada, yada, yada. All right. B-Mac, you're the Washington Commanders.
Oh, Washington. Got a lot going on. Oh, wait a minute. I'm Washington, right?
Yeah.
Give me. Is this guy still available? Hold on, I'm trying to look at this.
Who is it?
Yes.
Is Tyler Warren still available?
Yes.
Yes, he is.
Give me, yeah. Let's go. Tyler Warren, Washington.
They would run that card up. They would run that card up in 2 seconds if he was still there.
I had to make sure. I'm like, did I miss something? But that's easy. Yeah, I mean, there's not a significant need, but clearly he would be the best player on the board available for the Commanders. And you add another weapon to a very, very talented offense led by Jaden Daniels. And whenever Zach Ertz decides to call it quits, you don't miss a beat. So, yeah, Tyler Warren, Washington.
Rand, you're pick 30 for Buffalo, but let me ask you this. They drafted Ben Sinnott last year in the second round at tight end. Does that influence your decision at all to take a first-round tight end this time around?
No, because at this point, when you're picking this far down, you're probably a little less targeted in terms of people that you're going after. And because all these people are flying around, B-Mac's making trades from 21 to 9, and the board is moving around and taking players off. So here you're probably looking at best player available.
Okay.
And also, too, remember what the Raiders did. They had Mayer in the second round the year before, and then when Brock Bowers was available, added him to the piece, and clearly that was the best decision they made. So if you're the Commanders, you're kind of looking at the same thing from the Raiders' perspective. That's
a good call, B-Mac. Marlo loves the pick, by the way, B-Mac. All right, you're the Buffalo Bills. Brandon Beane, what are you doing, Rand?
So Brandon Beane, if you're looking at their defense, they have some holes on defense that they need to fill up front. You can easily go D lineman if a guy was there that they really like, as well as corner. They've kind of got a revolving door at corner. But taking the best player available at a position of need that fits what Buffalo is, who Buffalo is, and I'm taking Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia here. I think he is the quintessential Buffalo Bill guy. We're talking about an instinctive guy that can control the back end. And right now you have Taylor Rapp and you have DeMar Hamlin as your starting safeties. And DeMar is only on a 1-year deal. And so, I think he would easily step in, fill a role, and may become a day one starter for Sean McDermott and his defense.
All right, Pete.
I have a question for you, Rand. With that pick, how close were you to adding a bigger body to the interior front for the defensive line? Because I, for one, feel like that's an issue for Buffalo, especially when you get to December and January football. The lack of size in the interior, always surfaces, especially now with Derrick Henry, being with the Baltimore Ravens. That's a team you got to potentially see. How close were you to adding an addition to the defensive front for the Bills?
No, absolutely. And that was one of my notes. And the player that I would have taken here, who I believe will be here in real time, Walter Nolen. I think, and he's not on the bigger side, but still another body in there that could be disruptive. Because if you look at their front right now, Daquan Jones is 34 years old, and he'll be a free agent at the end of the season. And then they signed Larry Ogunjobi, who's been a good, solid quality rotational player, but he's suspended for the first 6 games.
Yep.
So right now, you really don't have depth there. So I think in a perfect world, one of those defensive tackles, if they're there, they're coming off the board. But for the sake of our exercise and the players that were available and the other needs that they have, I thought this Malachi Starks pick lined up.
Isn't Harmon still on the board?
He is. Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have considered him in that spot, but
I thought you were going to. I thought for the Chiefs at 31, you're going to take him. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I am going to take him for the Chiefs at 31. I'm going to take him right there in that spot.
See, I did that for you, Pete. I'm trying to set you up and give you the assist.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I just dunked it. I think this kid, look, do I think he's an elite defensive tackle? No. I think he's got a lot of talent and a lot of upside. I'll take Harmon in this spot.
All right. Well, you fell right into my trap as Howie Roseman. I'm taking James Pierce Jr. He's going to get 10 sacks next year, and that locker room is going to get him where he needs to be. So thank all you guys for playing along as Debo's Philadelphia Eagles are going to be defending champs next year, a year from now. All right,
They're the
first
one.
round.
They're the one team that can afford that, by the way.